Hello, my name is Adedoyin Jaiyesimi and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today, I'm going to take you on a journey to how I became a chartered PR practitioner. Yay me, this is something that I've wanted to do for such a long time, and I'm documenting this journey for those of you that are considering chartership or getting some sort of professional certification in communication. I'm going to share how I did it, the practice, the prep, and everything that you need to know so that you can make a decision about whether you want to become chartered or you want to explore another kind of professional certification. Okay, so like I said before, this is something that I'd wanted to do since 2021 when I was doing my master's program at IE Business School. I was done with the master's program, and then I think it was in 2020 that I met someone. Her name is Dabuni. Shout out to Dabuni. You're going to hear her name at some point because she was very, very instrumental to my chartership journey. But at the time, we were on a committee together, and I think it was in 2021 or maybe in 2020, she posted on LinkedIn that she had become chartered, and I was like, wow, there's chartership for this profession. So I knew that definitely was something that I wanted to do. I went on the CIPR website and then I checked the cost. And then even though the exchange rates back then wasn't what it is now, I still couldn't afford it. But, I just thought this is something that I would like to do in the long term. So I kind of just bookmarked it and had that on my mind. And I finished my master's program, took a break from school, adult education. Trust me, going back to school, doing anything academic related as an adult, it's not a walk in the park. So I took a break, and by the end of 2023, I was like, okay, Adedoyin, let's get back on, because again, things are changing and moving very quickly in the comm space, and you want to be sure that you are operating at the highest professional standard possible. And I knew it was time to get back on that train, and certification was very, very critical for me. So last year I did the Strategic Communication Management Professional certification by the Global Communication Council. It's GCCC. I can't remember what the other C is. And I shared the journey. You can watch the journey of how I got the SCMP. And this year I decided, okay, it's time to go for chartership. And what a journey. It really, really has been a journey. So in terms of why I wanted to do it, for me is when they're calling like the top of the top and the best of the best in this profession, not just within Africa, but globally. I want my name to at least feature in the top 20, but even beyond that, it's also making sure that you are up to date with the best practice to operate on a global standard. And it's so important for those of us that work in the African continent. You don't want to be boxed by the context of your country or your region. You want to be a professional that can work on a global standard. And these certifications, because they are global, they expose you to that kind of learning, to the application of comms principles in the different contexts and frameworks and all of that. So that was one of the reasons why I wanted to do it, to just make sure that, yeah, I'm on top of my game as a communications professional. So in December, I officially registered for the exam. Now, one of the key motivators was the fact that because I was already a CIPR member, they were giving this discounted offer. So if you renew your membership and add chartership, you were going to get some pounds off. And let me not lie, that was a great motivator for me. So hey, who doesn't love a good discount, right? So I did that, and then that began the journey. Now you book your assessment day, and 2 weeks before your assessment day, you get your case study. So there are 3 practice areas. One thing I really love about the CIPR is that they're very good at giving you resources and information. So there's actually a chartership pack, which I would link in the description of this video, that really contains what to expect, what the day is like. So I've read that handbook at some point last year, but I read it again this year, and I made sure that I took out the notes. How do I pass this chartership? What are they looking out for? Because it's not an assessment where they're just testing. You're not going to just be regurgitating, oh, this is what a press release is, oh, this is what it means to do a campaign. They're testing the application of your knowledge. So you need to know the models, you need to know the frameworks, and then how have you applied it in your job. So it's actually, I don't know how to say it. Like, it wasn't like difficult, but you had to learn how to express your knowledge within a certain kind of environment and atmosphere. And maybe I'm jumping the gun anyway. So let me go back to the beginning. So yeah, so I read the handbook, just really understanding what it is that I'm going into, what the assessors are looking out for, what I needed to demonstrate. And then I called Adedoyin. I was like, Adedoyin, I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to go for chartership. And we got on a call, and Adedoyin also shared her own tips and insights, which was very, very, very great. I have learned in my journey that if somebody has gone a path that you're about to embark on, it's just good. It shortens your learning curve to be able to just speak to the person to say, hey, what was your experience like? Do you have any tips for me? Obviously, your experience is not going to be 100% like that person's experience, but they can share valuable tips that can be useful for your own prep. So that conversation with Adedoyin was so important. She shared a number of things that I found very, very useful. Now, 2 weeks before my assessment date, my assessment was in March, I got 3 case studies. Now, the areas that were assessed were ethics, strategy, and leadership, and the 3 case studies were on those. In fact, I think it was 6. We had like 2, if I'm not, yes, we had 2 case studies for each area, so there were 6 actually, not just 3. So you had to read them, and then there were questions. Now, as part of the prep, they tell you don't answer the question and plan to answer them word for word during the assessment. It's just meant to be a guide to drive the conversation. So I read the case studies, I answered all the questions. So I think there were 6 questions for each of the segments. So ethics, leadership, and strategy, I answered all the questions. And then what I did was that I also gave myself time to practice actually delivering the answers to those questions, so that I was not cramming. What you don't want to do is go there and cram the answers, because your assessor may go off script. So I practiced myself just delivering the answers. Another thing that's very important, like I said before, it's about demonstrating your experience, how you have used these communication principles and practices on the job. So they don't want you to be talking about hypothetical, theoretical situations. How have you applied it? So it's supposed to bring examples. So for each of the areas, ethics, I listed out my experiences, projects that I worked on. Even as I was answering the case study questions, I was like, okay, this experience on this project will be good here. This example for the project will be great there. I didn't end up using all my examples, but I had them. I did all of that prep before the assessment day. Then you get like the joining instructions that has the name of your assessors, how to join the Zoom room before the day of the event. I did all of that great stuff, and as I always do for everything in my life, I prayed. I was like, look, Holy Spirit, I've done what I can do. I have studied, I have research. Another thing that I should add was, yes, I also brushed up my knowledge on certain frameworks and principles, just so that I was up to date. So I read one of the CIPR in practice. It's on PR planning. Very, very great book. I also read some of the resources on ESG, because that was one of the things that was highlighted in the case study. So the CIPR has an ESG panel. I watched some of their YouTube videos. I read some of their reports. So all of the thematic areas that came up in the case studies, I made sure that I was up to date, because you really want to be up to date with your knowledge of the principles, the frameworks, and the best practices. Yeah, so I did that, and I committed everything into the hands of the Lord. I prayed, I asked God for wisdom, I asked God to give me the grace to articulate, because again, it's not a written exam, it's oral. So they will ask you the questions that you must be able to answer within a time frame. So I got on early, bright and early in the morning, 9 o'clock Nigerian time, got into the Zoom room. They gave us the do's and don'ts of the day and what to expect, and then we were shipped off to our breakout room. In my breakout room, we had 5 people, myself and 4 other professionals from different countries. In fact, my assessment day, we had a lot of people from Zimbabwe. I think that their association, they're all on, like, all of you must become Chartered PR practitioners, and I really, really love it. Like, they showed up in full force. So it was kind of nice, because I also thought about it, that how will I feel if I'm the only black person, only Nigerian? Would I really flow? But seeing other black faces there, seeing other Africans, there was someone from Botswana as well. So it was really, really, really good. Like, it just gave me, like, I don't know how to explain it. You know, where you just feel like, okay, I'm among my people kind of thing. So that was really nice. And then we started. I think my first assessment was ethics, and the assessors started asking questions. They will go around the room however they want. Now, the thing about it is that because there are 5 of you and you have 1 hour for each practice area, you have to be able to answer your question, the question thrown at you, answer it very quickly, but demonstrate your knowledge, demonstrate your experience. And you also have to be listening to other people, because they are testing your ability to listen and engage with the other professionals. So you don't want to go there having crammed your answers, because you could tell when people were looking down, looking at their notes and all of that. I just had my notes on my laptop, and then when people would speak, if someone says something that I wanted to say, I would note it, and then I'll say something like, as Reginald said before, this is something, and then I will add something new. If when somebody is talking, maybe something comes to mind, I'll take down notes, but really avoid that looking down, making it obvious that you're reading off the paper. That is a no-no. So you have to really learn how to answer the question within such a time frame. And if you talk for too long, the assessors will cut you and you lose marks for it. So that's where the tension really was. So it wasn't even like, oh, the questions were that hard. It was, how do I communicate and articulate my knowledge, my experience, my expertise within this time frame, and just make sure that I meet all of the requirements. That was the tough part. But the 1 hour flew by really quickly, and then we had break, and then we got into the next one. I think my next one was strategy. I found that the strategy assessor was so tough. Now let me tell you about the assessors. So as we are speaking, you just see them writing. So you don't even know if you're making sense, if you're not making sense, because they're just writing. Again, that was a bit nerve-wracking. And the assessor for strategy, she was very very straight to the point. So again, because you couldn't tell, so you might think, oh, that went really well, but it's like, what if I didn't really say or hit the mark? So it was just funny. But what I did throughout the break times, I was just praying. I was like, Holy Spirit, we've got this. So we did the strategy part, same flow. They will ask you questions. So sometimes they start off asking you the questions they had sent you with the case studies, and maybe someone says something that's interesting and they can build on that, or the assessor would zero in on something you said. And so that's why you can't just afford to just cram and think that that's the only question you will answer. That's a very bad strategy. So you do your prep, but be flexible enough to be able to answer the questions. And what they really want to see is your experience. How have you applied it to your own unique scenario and context? So for like the ESG, for example, I haven't done a lot of briefs regarding ESG. In fact, I was a bit worried, which is why I went to go and consume all of the content in the CIPR ESG panel page, because I just wanted to be sure that, okay, I could articulate. But what really helped, because as I was reading the case study and I was answering the questions, I really struggled to find examples because I hadn't done like a core ESG brief. But when I listened to the YouTube recording of some of their webinars and I read their guides, I was like, oh, I've done this now. Okay, gender representation, okay, things about sustainability, climate change, all of that. And I've done briefs here and there where I'd advise like CEOs and executives on some of these things. So it was very good for me. And then I gave those examples. I also like started when I was answering the questions to say, I don't have much experience, but this is the experience I have, this is my thinking, and this would be my approach. So again, they kind of see like, okay, you can really do know your stuff, and your thinking is in the right direction. And then we had the final session. My final session was on, I believe it was on leadership. Again, it went well. Yeah, it went well. But again, it's one of those things you can't really tell right in the minute. Then we had another break. So after each assessment, you have some break time, but you're not supposed to like now go very far. So you're going to be online throughout. It's best not to just sign off. After the break, you come back on. Then after the break, once we were done with the 3 sessions, you now have a session for CPD, so your continuous professional development. So you're meant to create a 2-year plan on how you want to build on your strength in certain skill and competency areas, and then your fellow participants, or what was that name, your fellow applicants, they will give you feedback. So that was for about an hour, I think. That's not assessed, but you definitely have to create your CPD plan. And then we did that, and then we were all transported to the main room where we were about over 40 something people, and then the wait began. So people started disappearing one by one, like it was the rapture. So you get sent to another room where they tell you whether you've passed it or not. Now, in terms of passing it, there are 3 levels, right? There's clear proceed, which means that you did really well. There's borderline, which means they're not sure, and then there's not proceed. And you have to get a clear proceed in at least 2. So you need to be able to get a clear proceed in at least 2. If you get not proceed in like 2, you're not going to pass. If you get borderline in 3, you're not going to pass. So again, all of this is in their handbook. So again, just being able to get that clear proceed on at least 2 of it is very, very essential. But to the glory of God, I got a clear proceed in all 3. In fact, when I got into the breakout room, she was like, look, I'm just going to go straight to the point. You excelled very well. We're so impressed. And I was like, glory be to God. It's Jesus. But I really, really thank God. And honestly, the experience for me, yes, the title is great. I mean, it's great to be recognized as a chartered PR practitioner, but the knowledge in itself was really, really great. Like the case studies and even answering the question, the depth that was required, the depth of research, the conversations with my fellow applicants as well. It was really thought-provoking. I got to see other context in Zimbabwe, in Botswana. We also had someone in the UK, very senior level. She worked in the public sector, and seeing how she had used communication principles and her activities, how they tie into policy outcomes. It was really, really good. Like, it was such a great learning experience that I would definitely do it again, and I would definitely recommend it. So that's really it. That's the journey. That's what I did, and I honestly give God all of the glory. I don't like to take credit for any of these things. Yes, I do all of the studying, I prepared, but God really showed me his favor, and I'm so excited. Now, should you do this certification, should you become chartered, I don't see why not. Honestly, I think that especially when we're talking about professionalism in our profession and people taking seriously, this is one of the ways that you can show that you're a professional. This is one of the ways that you can show that you're operating on global standards. So get it, whether you're getting the SCMP or you're getting the chartership, please commit to it. It's rigorous, it's stretching, you have to prep. Also, it's costly, but I think it's worth it. Another thing that I should say why I also like the chartership, unlike the SCMP where every year you have to renew and the renewal comes with money, you have to I don't know how much it costs to renew every year. What you just need to do to maintain your chartership status is that you are doing your CPD every year, and that's 60 points. And if you are a professional that is committed to professional development, that's easy peasy. So yes, I hope that this helps you to make a decision on whether to become chartered or not. If it's something that you feel, I really want to do this, but I can't afford it, give yourself time. Remember, I said 2020, 2021 was when I had it on my radar. This is 2025. It took me 4 years. Just put it on your radar. You never know. Somehow a scholarship opportunity may come up. That's what happened to me with the SCMP. I got a scholarship to do the certification. That may happen to you, but put it on your radar to achieve the highest levels of this profession in comms and PR, and you never know the doors that would open for you. So if you have any questions about chartership, you're still thinking about it, or maybe you have actually booked an assessment day and you're just like, Adedoyin, please help me, I'm so scared, reach out to me. Please leave a comment, send me a DM, let's talk about it. But I really hope that you can refer to the content of this video and make a decision that will impact your professional journey positively. Thank you for watching. Bye.